That magical time is upon us, where conventions are starting to be run again. We are starting to see people in person again, to show off our cosplays and to be one with our nerdism. That is right, it is time! But for some of us it means that we need to brush up on certain etiquettes, as it's been 2 years since we've last been to a convention, so join me as I discuss in this video the etiquette of going to conventions. G'day everyone, welcome back to another Catch Up with Kiralee. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kiralee, and on this channel we talk about all things costuming, cosplay and sewing related. Somewhat recently, I went to my first convention in about 2 years, and it was interesting. For the most part, it was absolutely wonderful and I had a really good time. But there were certain things that I went, that didn't used to fly and it shouldn't fly anymore. So I thought I'd make this video and just to, refresh our memories about how to behave in these types of weird, wonderful settings that we call conventions. So here's 6 things to remember when going to a convention. Tip number 1, read the rules of the convention and then follow them. This seems like a very simple one, and granted most conventions have the same rules, but it is important to read the convention rules as there might be a few nuances that you need to adhere to. For cosplay specifically, there may be prop size limits, and it's really important that you know that before you choose which cosplay you're going to take to that convention, because you don't want to get there and your prop is banned from coming onto the floor. For cosplay competitions, they may have a little bit of a, that's okay, but you won't be able to take the prop out onto the floor. So for the most of the convention, it will have to stay backstage or in a secure area. This can be a real pain if you're wanting to take photographs with your prop that you've spent so much time working on. So, don't take that prop to that convention if you're not going to be able to walk around with it, right? So read the rules before you go. Perhaps even before you start making that cosplay. Now currently we also have some other rules that have been put into place to do with COVID. That may be that you have to wear masks indoors or outdoors of the actual convention itself, and also there are conventions that require you to be double vaccinated to even attend. And just on that note, very quickly, don't do lobbycon. That's just stupid. Lobbycon is where people are too cheap to buy a ticket to go to a convention, but they want to wear their cosplays and hang out with their friends. I'm sorry. This convention has spent a lot of money. The least you can do is show your support to, having a convention and actually buy a ticket. And with lobbycon, of course, they also don't need to adhere to the rules that the convention sets, meaning they could be putting other people at risk. So from one cosplayer to another, please don't do lobbycon. It's just, please don't. Speaking of COVID, that brings us to point 2, and that is respect everyone else's space. Conventions can be very crowded and overwhelming spaces for a lot of people, and it's very important, especially in these times of, I wouldn't say post-COVID, but kind of, that we, appreciate that other people may need their personal space. So what that means is social distance wherever possible. It also means that you must ask someone if you want to touch them, whether that be a hug, whether that be interacting and having a look at their prop or their costume, just even being in their personal space, just ask, hey, is it all right if I take this photo of you? Or is it all right that I get a photo with you and I am touching your shoulder? Or that we are looking at each other fondly? I don't know. Just make sure that you're always asking if you're coming into that personal space. Less on the COVID thing and more just in regards to being aware of your general surroundings as well in terms of that personal space. Do not stop in the corridors to have a good chat with a friend that you've not seen in ages. I know it's been 2 years, we've missed each other, or that we really love this person's costume. That's fine, that's great. Ask if you can maybe go to the edge of the convention or, outside. Just do not stop. How many times has it been that people have run into each other, usually in Artist Alley, which is always crowded as it is because they're the smallest tables and the narrowest corridors, and they've just stopped in the middle, and it's just stopped all the flow of traffic. People are banging into each other. It's not safe, it's not healthy, and also in that kind of situation, the artists are the ones who are also suffering as well, because people are scurrying past them to try and get around this group of people going,
"Oh my god, I love your cosplay so much! Oh my god, I haven't seen you in like forever!"
Think of the poor starving artists. This goes without saying, but always ask for photos before you take them. It's just creepy if you take photos of someone and you've not asked their permission. You're just like, like who does that? Who does that in real life? Just because you're wearing cosplay doesn't mean that you're giving consent for the world to take photographs of you. It's creepy. And also, as another tip on that, if someone's eating and they're in cosplay, don't approach them for a photograph. Don't. Just don't. That's terrible. That is their downtime. They do not owe you anything. And my last kind of sub point to this beware of other people's personal spaces is beware of costumes and props. People spend a lot of time working on their cosplays and their props, and when someone walks into or onto either their prop or their costume, which may have a very long train, for example, or it may just be a long skirt or something, they can get broken. And I can tell you with all my heart, true to you right now, there is nothing worse than having spent hundreds of hours working on a cosplay and then someone steps on your costume and you hear rip, or you look down and there is a footprint on your beautiful light colored silk and you're about to go into prejudging. So please, always be careful of where you're stepping and what you're walking into. And if you are wearing a large cosplay, make sure you're doing everything that you possibly can to ensure that it is as contained as possible and there's the least amount of trippage that is around you. We've all got to do our part in this little adventure. Tip number 3 is a very basic one, but a very important one. Hygiene. Make sure you shower and make sure you wear deodorant. If you can afford the cost of a ticket to go to a convention, you can afford to take a shower and wear deodorant. Nobody likes a stinky person. And tip number 4, and I think that this one is probably the one that is most prevalent at the moment because we've got so much excitement to be back at conventions, and that is, do not make this convention about you. Of course, we're all there to have fun. We're so excited. But at the end of the day, if you are loud and obnoxious, you are going to be annoying. And you're going to be annoying for everyone around you. And it doesn't matter if you're having a great time. If you're ruining other people's funs based on your actions, then you're really not a good person. I'm sorry, you're just not. So always try to be aware of your surroundings. Don't be rude, don't be obtuse, because at the end of the day, you need to make sure that everyone is having as much fun as you. And please, 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 do not swear or keep swearing an absolute minimum because there are kids around. At so many of these conventions, this is a family event, and so kids come along, and I don't know about you, but I think that kids should not have swearing in front of them. And on the topic of being rude, this also goes for policing cosplays. What I mean by that is do not go up to someone and quiz them about that particular character because they may just like the design and that is okay. Or they've only seen up to this particular episode or this particular movie and this is what they know of that character so far. That doesn't make them any less of a fan than you. And another type of policing cosplays is going up to someone and saying, that part's wrong, or that's the wrong color, or your wig is completely wrong. Did you know that? Like, that sort of thing, jog on, mate, jog on. Another sub point of this is do not go to the volunteers or the staff and make demands of them. These guys are so stressed and they are trying their best to make everything run as smoothly as possible. They are there for volunteers. They are there because maybe they couldn't afford the ticket, but they also wanted to just help out. They wanted to be part of it all. They wanted to see what goes on backstage. There's so many reasons why someone would volunteer. And they are giving their own time to try and help this run smoothly. So if you go up to them and you're making demands of them, not cool, mate, not cool. And as for the staff, they are, I can tell you with all honesty, the staff at conventions are not paid enough. The amount of work that they do and the level of stress that they are dealing with on those particular days of the convention days is through the roof. So don't turn your tiny problem into this massive thing for no reason. Of course, go and ask for help if you actually need it, but don't make demands. So an example of this is if you're in a cosplay competition and you're waiting backstage, don't be like, oh my God, it's so hot. Where's my water? Bring me water. You're an adult. You know that cosplay competitions backstage, it's gonna be hot. Make sure you bring your own water. Because if someone has to bring you water and they are either a volunteer or a staff member, you're pulling them away probably from doing really, really important work. They're not just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. There's no time for that. Also, don't do backhanded compliments like,
oh my God, your cosplay is so much better than that person's. Oh my gosh, you're so talented. I wish I could sew. My cosplays never look that good.
Don't do that. And lastly, for the sub-point of don't make the con about yourself, is this one. If you are ever given a microphone to speak into, whether that be you're in a cosplay competition and you're on stage, or you're at a panel and you're able to ask questions, do not be rude and do not say anything rude. If it's rude or offensive, keep it in your brain, keep it away from your mouth, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to embarrass someone or be offensive to someone, who's the asshole? You! Alright, let's move on from that one, shall we? Tip number 5, remember that you are still in a public place. What I mean by this is remember, especially if it's a family-friendly kind of event, that there are going to be people from all walks of life. They're at the convention and you are on display. Cosplayers, we attract attention. That is absolutely true. But put it this way, would you feel comfortable wearing a bikini walking down the main street of your city? What kind of attention are you going to get there? How about this one? Would you carry a real sword into an office building or a bank? And lastly, would you glomp a person that you've never met before? You know, just randomly in the street, you just go, oh my gosh, and just run and hug, tackle someone. No, you wouldn't. Because, you know, you would get charged for assault, or indecent exposure, or, you know, threatening for burglary or something. Like, if this is something that in other contexts would be something that you could be fined with or arrested for, probably don't wear it or bring it to a convention or do it at a convention. And tip number 6, my last tip, do not overstay a friendly interaction. I absolutely get this. You may see a cosplayer or a character that you absolutely love and you just need to tell them. You just need to appreciate them and tell them how much you appreciate them. However, they may very well say thank you and everything like that and be polite. That is not an invitation for you to become best friends with them and suddenly change, you know, all the statuses on your social media saying, oh my God, like they love me, and like stay with them for the next 3 hours. Look for social cues such as them looking away, them turning their backs on you, finishing up the conversation with, I think I need to go now, or, you know, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. That is a closing sentence if it goes down, you know, that sort of thing. Appreciate that. Say thank you very much for your time and move on. Do not make it awkward for anyone, including yourself. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got to say on that particular topic. I hope that you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure you leave us a comment, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next one. See you later. Bye.